For our group visualization project, we chose to focus on NHL predictions, and this project was worked on by Nate Johnson, Morgan Martins, and Isaac Kapsner. So for question 1, we have, what did a goalie save percentage of 90% or higher usually indicate for teams this season? As you can see in the graph here, generally a save percentage of 90 or higher indicates that the team made the playoffs.
All right, for our second question, we had the idea of, is there a correlation between total goals scored and total wins? And by looking at the graph, we can kind of start to see with the black lines being total wins and then the actual colored line being the total amount of goals scored, there is kind of a slight trend going up the graph that more goals you score means relatively the more wins you usually have. There are some exceptions, one big being the Nashville Predators having a higher than average win count despite having lower than average total goals scored. Our third question was, did any team with a GAA standing for goals allowed on average, of 3.5 or higher make the playoffs? And by looking at the graph, we can clearly see if with the GAA of 3.5, none of those teams made the playoffs. In fact, it only really starts to get teams usually only start going to the playoffs when we get to numbers about 3.1 between 3.2. And if you are under about 2.75, you're almost for sure going to the playoffs.
Our next question is, based on the playoff salary cap graph, is salary cap a consistent indicator of whether or not a team made the playoffs? And by looking at the graph with projected cap hit on the x-axis and the teams and total wins on the y-axis, you can clearly see that it's not a very good indicator of whether or not they made the playoffs. For example, the Vegas Golden Knights had the highest cap in the league this year and they made the playoffs, and the Montreal Canadiens had the second highest cap and they did not make the playoffs this year. And our last question, which team led the league in goals? Which team had the fewest? The Edmonton Oilers led the league in goals this season by a fairly large margin, and the Chicago Blackhawks had the least amount of goals this season.